doesn't portray a character, he's just himself. He's friendly and sociable with the people he likes, but if he doesn't like you, you're in trouble. His former roommate 𝗚𝗙𝗢𝗣𝗬𝗠 talks about it in an interview.
Brock is not acting. Brock is not playing a role. Brock is Brock. He's a bad boy. What you're seeing on TV, that's not an act.
Recent reports suggest we may never see Lesnar in WWE again due to his involvement in Vince McMahon's alleged sexual offenses. McMahon, CEO of WWE, is accused of having supplied Lesnar with women to use as sexual partners. In this documentary, we take a look at Brock Lesnar's dark side. What is he really like? USA in the 1980s. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, a beast is born. Webster, South Dakota to be exact. A small town so far off the map, there's no bigger city nearby as a point of reference. This desolate part of the Midwest is as country gets. Lesnar's parents raise him on the family ranch. They say Brock wanted to help drive cattle when he was just 4 years old. His parents seem warm, unassuming, the average small-town folk. But it soon became obvious that their child was anything but ordinary. Brock was bullied in school. He got into scrapes regularly. Like many kids, he was thin and stringy, too weak to defend himself. Kids called him Broccoli, and nobody liked Broccoli. Lesnar was afraid of the boys who called him names. Later, they became his best friends, and Lesnar became bully himself. From the age of 14, he started gaining muscle. He was always outdoors working hard, pushing himself so hard physically that his body couldn't help but build muscle. He also ate more than the other kids, and even most adults.
Yeah, I was always hungry. I was always active. I was always doing push-ups, always doing sit-ups, always working out as long as I can remember.
With his new size came strength. Brock was confident. He wouldn't take anything from anyone anymore. An attitude that would stay with him for the rest of his life. If someone got on his nerves, his default response was to beat them up. Brock says he was a very aggressive child. His wrestling coach says he was hard to rein it at times, and that he had a short temper. The other kids were scared of him. No one wanted to get in the ring with him because Lesnar took it seriously. He put in the effort, and he really liked to win.
But that's what it is. It's just one-on-one. It's basically a legal street fight with a few rules. That's what I liked about it.
He always had a little bit of a temper and was very aggressive.
His mindset is filled with ambition. An ambition to put himself above the competition, to come out on top. It's not enough to participate, Lesnar needs to win. He doesn't care about the educational aspect of sports, and he doesn't care about other people's feelings. What fuels Lesnar is the feeling of being stronger, physically dominating others. In short, he loves to fight. In an interview, he says he was born to fight.
Look like a killing machine, don't it? Born to fight, fight to kill, but ready to die, but I never will.
Lesnar is a fighter. When people ask him what he wants to do with his life, he's stumped. All his classmates talked about being a firefighter or going to college, but not Lesnar. He wants a job that involves fighting, so at 17, he joins the military. As a soldier, he would defend the freedom of his country with his life. His family is proud, but Lesnar doesn't understand why all of a sudden he should be treated as a hero. All he wanted was a challenge and the opportunity to do what he does best and get paid to do it. However, when he is called in for his military service and subjected to routine health tests by the medical personnel, things take an abrupt turn, and Lesnar is assigned an office job due to his color deficiency. Lesnar has trouble distinguishing red from green, and at times, right from wrong. Again and again, he gets himself into trouble. He still loves fighting. He still loves the feeling of physically domineering others. He gets that thrill from winning a bar fight, but not from doing paperwork in the military office. So, he quits. He's disoriented, doesn't know where to go or what to do. Eventually, he starts working for a construction company, a typical small-town job, 9 to 5, living for the weekend, for the beer at the bar, and the rambling conversations that lead nowhere, only to dream, in a restless sleep, of a purpose. The next stop, college. To say the least, Lesnar isn't the studying type. He skips lectures, doesn't turn in his assignments, and never actually graduates. Still, his time in college did wonders for him because he got back into amateur wrestling. At the University of Minnesota, Lesnar won the NCAA Wrestling Championship in 2000. A huge success. Now considered the best wrestler of his age group and weight class, Lesnar leaves college, not with a slip of paper, but with a contract offer from WWE. Brock Lesnar was the next big thing, rated higher than other young talents like John Cena, Randy Orton, or Batista. Reports of the time say the WWE paid him an enormous salary of $250,000 just to start training for his professional wrestling career with the company. Everyone who works with him agrees he's the most intense athlete they have ever encountered.
He's the most talented, most gifted athlete I've ever seen in my life.
Built of concrete and steel, and just is the most gifted athlete that I've ever seen.
He's absolutely one of the best professional wrestlers on the planet. When he wants to show up.
WWE scouts rarely make a mistake. With Brock Lesnar, they have discovered a once-in-a-century caliber of talent. Later, Lesnar says God sent him to this world to be a pro wrestler. His rise is meteoric. WWE boss Vince McMahon had never pushed anyone as quickly and as strongly as Brock before. He put all his eggs in one basket, made him the face of the company, had him win the world championship. A daring move by the genius of the wrestling industry, a gamble. Things go well for a while, but soon Lesnar realizes the true challenges of the wrestling business. The jam-packed schedule gets to him, and he longs for the free weekends that a regular job would afford him. Jumping from plane to plane, city to city, his distinctive red face wanted across the country for press calls and TV appearances, wrestling 5 nights a week, living out of a suitcase, and then the constant challenge of social interaction backstage. The touring lifestyle drains him. He's just not cut out for it. Because Brock Lesnar is an introvert, that doesn't mean he's reluctant, shy, a wallflower. Far from it. But introverted people need time alone to recharge and recover. However, with this hectic schedule, that was rarely possible. Lesnar emphasizes in interviews how challenging it is for him to be constantly dealing with people.
I really don't like people. I'm sorry, I don't. That's just who I am. That's why I live out in the middle of nowhere.
And I like to go and just get away from the people, and I just like to be left the fuck alone. It just exhausts me, and so I gotta go and like recharge up.
Lesnar wants to be left alone, and his lifestyle reflects that. Like his parents, he owns a ranch in a remote, rural area. No neighbors, no small talk. His property in Canada is secluded and highly secured, with an 8-foot fence around it and a security gate for entry and exit. This is the life Brock has chosen for himself. But of course that wasn't possible back in 2004. There were huge expectations for him to perform without fail. He was supposed to grow into an approachable backstage personality, to act as a locker room leader, an extension of Vince McMahon. But with the amount of social interaction that required, Brock found it hard to represent himself in a good light, let alone the company. He resorts to using alcohol, drugs, and painkillers to relax and distract himself, becomes increasingly more irritable, and gets himself into verbal and physical conflicts with his co-workers. For example, he once had a fight with 𝗚𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 when they shared an airplane to the next show. Hennig was drunk and provoked Lesnar. Eventually, the situation escalated. Annoyed by the strains of full-time travel, Lesnar tackled 𝗚𝗏𝗡𝗏 against the airplane door. He almost tore it off its hinges, terrifying all passengers. Around this time, the name Brock Lesnar had a distinct reputation as a loner, irritable, unpredictable, a real asshole. You better not mess with him. Soon Vince McMahon realized his predicament. The next big thing is everything he wanted as a wrestler, but not as a person. Vince needed someone who could represent WWE, and it wasn't Brock. He later found the perfect face of the company in John Cena. But Lesnar doesn't care. He wanted to leave, get out of the company, out of the hell that was working with WWE. Vince was angry that after everything he had done for him, Lesnar would just quit. But Lesnar is done. Finished. He signs a dissolution agreement stating that he can't wrestle again until the year 2010. But Lesnar is not the type of person that lets a piece of paper dictate what he can and cannot do. He doesn't care about the contract and moves to Japan to work for New Japan Pro Wrestling, violating the formal agreement he had with Vince. The schedule there is more relaxed, and Lesnar enjoys the change of scenery living in a foreign country. New Japan officials recognize his potential early on and let him win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in his very first match there. The legal dispute between Lesnar and WWE is eventually settled. Then, in 2006, Brock Lesnar fights Nakamura. The two of them would later meet again in WWE, something Nakamura said he wasn't too happy about. After working with Lesnar, Nakamura was down, withdrew into the backstage area and cried. In an interview later, he said Lesnar behaved disrespectfully, that he looked down on many Japanese wrestlers and their culture, and that he had no love for wrestling. He's right. Lesnar has no love for the sport, at least not the kind that Nakamura had early in his career. At this point, Brock was just a hot-headed, selfish guy, figuring out what he really wants in life. Brock has a hard time keeping his temper in check. Especially as a young man, he struggled a lot with aggression management.
He's an interesting dude. Everything that you've heard about him and read about him is dead on.
You know, he was actually saying things that would probably get him cancelled, like homophobic terms that you shouldn't be saying.
One serious incident occurred during his football days. During a joint training session between his Vikings and the Kansas City Chiefs, Brock sees an opponent act disrespectfully towards one of his teammates. Then, at the next play, he takes his shot. Lesnar grabs the man and suplexes him. Right in the middle of the play. Right there on the football field.
Going for a triple! A third and final Undertaker!
He's a fighter, and a damn good one. He knows that. That's why he never shies away from a fight. What he doesn't know is that even officially, he would soon be known as one of the best fighters the world has ever seen. Lesnar's football career ends in a car crash. The seemingly invincible Brock Lesnar taken out by an accident. Broken jaw, left hand too, internal injuries, football off the table. After the accident though, something happened that he would remember for the rest of his life. Brock Lesnar walks into a tattoo studio in Phoenix, Arizona, drunk. He gets a gigantic tattoo, a menacing one. The sharp sword with the knuckle grip starts just above the navel and goes all the way up to the throat, almost into the throat. In his autobiography, he writes about it. I felt like life was holding a sword right up against my throat, so I went under the ink gun because I never wanted to forget exactly how I felt at that time. The tattoo on my chest has so much meaning to me. In some ways it's funny because the period of my life that I'm talking about is a time I so want to forget, but but I know I can use this memory as motivation. Lesnar's body boasts other dark motifs. For example, a large demon head with large teeth. Written underneath is the morbid statement, "Kill 'em all." Surely Brock would have excelled at football too if it hadn't been for the accident, because whatever Lesnar sets his mind to, he dominates. In the UFC, he climbs the rankings and becomes the heavyweight champion, earning him a new reputation as one of the best martial artists in the world. Easily, he destroys the biggest names the sport has to offer and divides the history of MMA into a time before Lesnar and the time after. Actually, he should never have become this successful. His training was short and, according to experts, nowhere near thorough enough to compete on a professional level in the UFC. But human set boundaries and expert opinions mean nothing to Brock Lesnar. This man can break any rule and redefine it through his exception. The only thing that could stop him was his declining health. The doctors say this time it could be life-threatening. Because Lesnar is too sick to be in peak physical condition, he loses the UFC Championship title to Cain Velasquez. Later, after his WWE comeback, he returned to the octagon once more to fight Mark Hunt. His opponent, one of the best heavyweights of all time, was tough, but not tough enough. Lesnar defeated him in an impressive performance, despite evidence of doping. Another one of the greats, Conor McGregor, also returned to the octagon after a longer break. But his return wasn't successful. He says, once you're out, you're out. Apparently, that doesn't apply to Brock Lesnar, someone who McGregor used to make fun of. Lesnar's response is telling.
I take shits bigger than that kid, all right?
In 2012, Lesnar celebrates his WWE return. It's just a job for him, yes, but there are some arrangements with Vince that make the whole thing much more bearable. Lesnar doesn't have to tour as frequently anymore. He makes fewer appearances for more money. He's earned that status. Vince is cautious. Maybe he's still a bit angry about what happened last time, but from a business standpoint, he has no other choice than to rely on Brock again. So he receives another push like no one has ever seen, and he gets to break The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. Now and then, he pops up in WWE for the paycheck. In 2015, the entire Raw crew was grounded at the airport due to a snowstorm. Many wrestlers and backstage staff members were stuck in one place together. To make the best of the situation, Lesnar spent a lot of money insisting that the hotel bar remain open all night. Alcohol seems to be something he can use to connect with others. Seth Rollins took advantage of that. He knew that Lesnar likes his mountains blue, so he brought him an ice-cold six-pack of Coors Light, Lesnar's favorite beer, to the backstage area to break the ice. Dealing with Lesnar is anything but easy. Many people he looks down on, for instance Dean Ambrose, he never quite respected him. That's why their match at WrestleMania 32 was so disappointing. They just couldn't get along. After the match, Ambrose was frustrated. Unlike his Shield colleagues Rollins and Reigns, he couldn't warm up to Lesnar. Brock still doesn't like a great deal of people, and chances are that will never change. He may be older, more mature now, and not as impulsive as he used to be, but there is still that glint of anger, of untamed aggression. At SummerSlam 2016, he and Chris Jericho got into an argument. At this point, Jericho was already a legend of the sport and a trusted veteran of the wrestling business, but that day simply a man blind with rage.
He was doing a match with Randy Orton and he was butchering him with elbows to the head. I didn't know if it was planned or not. Elbows to the side of the head can kill you. Your temple, if you get hit hard enough in the temple, you die. I was fucking angry about it, and Brock came through. Decided he wanted to come challenge me, and we got into a little bit of an issue. And I was like, fuck this guy. I don't give a shit how big he is. Like, I don't fucking care. He was actually saying things that would probably get him canceled, like homophobic terms that you shouldn't be saying.
When Lesnar showed up backstage, Jericho confronted him. The two superstars faced off, and a fight was imminent. Fortunately, Triple H, Vince McMahon, and others intervened to separate them. Jericho even threatened to bite Lesnar's nose off. Whether or not he would have survived the attempt is another question.
He might kill me, but he's gonna walk around for the rest of his life with no fucking nose.
But Jericho's concern was justified. Orton suffered a concussion at the hands of Lesnar and went out of commission for over a month. This style of wrestling is dangerous. That Lesnar was ruthless about it is not surprising. What's worrying is that Vince, as the decision maker, didn't do anything about it. Brock Lesnar can be a reckless animal in the ring. That was already the case during his first run in the early 2000s. In an interview, Lesnar proudly recounts how he injured Kurt Angle's neck with hard punches.
Kurt had neck problems way back, but I threw Kurt into the turnbuckle and came in and hit him very hard. And I believe actually that was where his first refracture in the wrestling business came from me. I broke his neck that night. Me and Kurt went at it, you know. He hit me hard and I hit him back harder.
Braun Strowman also felt Lesnar's stiffness in the ring. He's one of the wrestlers Lesnar never really respected. Lesnar wanted to be professional and get the match over with, and everything went according to plan, until Strowman laid into his punches too much. Lesnar flew off the handle. His temperament unchanged, he switches briefly into MMA mode. Just for a second, we see him retaliate with powerful punches of his own. It's normal for wrestlers to respond to unsafe moves with a receipt, but unprotected punches to the head should not be taken lightly. Many WWE wrestlers criticize Lesnar for his reaction that day. There are more incidents involving the aggressive side of Brock Lesnar. Even towards Vince McMahon, he doesn't hold back. After the main event of WrestleMania 34, we see a visibly upset world champion throwing his title at Vince. Lesnar is angry with the crowd, who paid no attention to the match and played beach ball instead. He rages backstage, fed up. Only his wife Sable gets him to calm down. A few weeks later, and he is back to normal. Back home, roaming through the woods in search of game. Brock is an avid hunter and a registered member of the NRA. Hunting is a part of him. There are regulations, of course, but that doesn't mean he'll adhere to them. In 2011, authorities held him accountable for a violation of those regulations. He'd shot a mule deer but failed to tag it properly. The penalty, $1,500 and a suspension of his Canadian hunting license. But that wasn't the only run-in Lesnar had with the law. In 2001, police had arrested him for alleged possession of steroids. That was during his time in the WWE Developmental League, OVW. The substances turned out to be perfectly legal and the police stopped their investigation. Staying in line doesn't make it very high up on the list of Lesnar's priorities. He breaches contracts, dopes in combat sports, hunts in his own way, and doesn't like being interfered with. A conservative Republican and Trump supporter. He loves his freedom and often sees it threatened, mostly by other people. He doesn't like people. He fights people. A few people he loves dearly. A few friends he holds in very high regard. The Undertaker, for example, even though they had their differences, During a UFC appearance of Lesnar, the two of them bumped heads. Dana White remembers in an interview.
Him and Brock have some beef, and Brock walked by him and he said something to him, and it blew up into that whole thing that happened.
It's like you're at a loss for words here. You want to do it? It was Brock Lesnar right there.
The Undertaker just called me a couple days ago and apologized for that whole thing, yeah.
Brock Lesnar is like a loaded gun with a hair trigger. He doesn't need a lot to go off. This is doubly true for the people he doesn't respect, who don't respect him. He's a man of conviction, self-righteous, and arrogant. And he's a businessman, a beast, and above all, a fighter. Thank you for watching this video. We are Spotfight, a wrestling media startup from Germany. What connects us with you is our passion for wrestling. If you want to support us, consider to like and subscribe. Till next time, guys, see you.